Hi everyone, welcome to Yachting International Radio. You're with Karine and Rayson, your host from the Crew Coach. So today I'll be interviewing Janoah, who is a very experienced meditation teacher. In this interview, we'll be discussing the benefits of meditation as well as the stigma attached to meditation, specifically with males. Janoah will be talking about his personal experience of meditation and how it helped him manage his anxiety and stress. So this is a very interesting interview. If you are someone that burns out quite easily, struggles with depression, anxiety, or stress, this interview is for you. Hi everyone, I've got a very special guest with me today. I've got Janoah all the way from Sydney, and I say all the way from Sydney, I'm actually in Sydney too, but I'm down the south coast. But yeah, it's so good to connect with Janoah, and today we're going to be talking about mindfulness and meditation. And why I'm so excited is because, as you guys can all see, Janoah is a male, and we're talking about well-being, meditation from a very experienced meditator and a mindfulness practitioner. So I think a good place for us to begin, Janoah, is to ask you how and why did you get into mindfulness and meditation? Because when I met you, you were in the liquor business. So it's very, very different.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Often people that knew me previously, because obviously I used to live in Adelaide, which is where I grew up, and they sort of knew me as who I was, and then they're like, "Oh, you teach meditation," and they can't get their head around it because I was unlike anyone you'd ever consider to be a meditation teacher. So it took me 28 years to finally learn and be open to meditation, and up until that point, I was, well, I'm still am. I'm skeptical, right? So I was very much, for me, I thought meditation was something along the lines of, maybe I have to join a cult, do some kind of weird woo-woo hippie bullshit, and that wasn't of any interest to me, right? I was very much wanted to be normal. I was interested in performance, but I hadn't made the connection between meditation and performance. I was like, I can't control my mind. And so I never really gave it the chance. I sort of started hearing a little bit about meditation, but for me it was, oh yeah, no, that weird stuff. And so it was only by luck that I ended up learning to meditate in a way. So what I mean by that is, as you mentioned, I was working for an alcohol company. So, I was a bar manager for a while. I studied uni. Did a master's in commerce and marketing. Then I spent time working in IT networking in corporate. And then I spent about 7 or 8 years as a sales manager for an alcohol company. And throughout that time, I experienced things that I thought were just normal to be a human being, right? So, I didn't realize I actually experienced anxiety until afterwards. I just thought it was normal to feel really like sick in the stomach or nervous before certain things. And and when I was really busy at work, the only way to get sleep, I'd put headphones in and put on a movie or some music so we'd cancel out what was going on in here. And for me, that was just normal. I was like, yeah, that's just what it is to be a human being, right? You just push through and you get up. And then obviously I used alcohol a lot as a great number.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a problem with any of that. And that seemed to be the norm because it is quite common. And also a lot of people don't tend to share that they are battling with things, with overwhelm. And it's sort of a bit of a case of most people I speak to, when they find out that someone else is like, oh yeah, they're experiencing that too. It's like, oh, I thought I was the only one. It's amazing how we still sort of think that. And that's what I thought. So that was just what it was. And you push through, right? You hustle and you're busy, and it was almost like a bit of a badge of honor that you were under the pump and you push through and you partied hard, work hard, which is, still fine and fun, but it was becoming to the extent of, I would use it as probably a bit destructive.
Yeah.
And so having said that, I was still interested in performance, right? And so when I was working for the alcohol company, by chance, one of my clients, they owned a bar and a restaurant, but they were really creative and they still drank wine and ate meat and seemed normal, but they were operating at this higher level. And I was like, oh, wow, these guys are cool. And And funny enough, they actually had the restaurant was on the harbour here in Sydney. And so that was my first proper exposure to kind of people that I deemed as, high performers and creatives that were meditating. And that sort of, for me, had a little trigger. I was like, maybe there's more to meditation than what I, with my uneducated mind, thought. And so I started researching high performers. And I started noticing a common thread. A lot of high performers, and listening to podcasts, and one podcast in particular, a guy called Tim Ferriss is one of the OGs in podcasting, and he did this review once of some of the high performers for a book, and he found over 90% of them either used meditation or mindfulness in their routine. I was like, right, and that for me was like, okay, there's something in this. So I learned to meditate, and even at the time I learned it, and I didn't quite get it, and I was still thinking, and I was like, okay, who knows what's going to go on here, and then I started shifting how I engage with people. My awareness is one of the biggest things. Like anxiety aren't even a thing now. I just don't experience it. If I ever get a little taste of it, I just feel it and move through it so quickly. And I deal with overwhelm so much better, and I'm just a lot more resilient. I barely get sick anymore. It's nuts how it shifted, and what was the catalyst then for me to move to become a teacher was the fact that I knew what it did to me, right? And it was pretty profound, the impact it had on me. And then I asked like my friends and family, do you reckon I've changed much? And they're like, fuck yeah, you have.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, it's not only just how I think I'm performing, but other people are noticing a change in me as well. And I was like, well, would any of my mates learn to meditate still? And most of them still wouldn't. And I looked at most of the teachers out there, and most of the teachers out there, they were still
struggling.
Well, they have their people, their students, but what I noticed was that they weren't very
consistent,
relatable.
Oh, I see.
The teachers weren't still relatable. Like, it was lucky that I met the person that I did, and we became friends, and I liked them. But even she was, probably to a lot of my mates, still a little bit sort of next step. Pretty cool. Like, she's like, I don't look at her work was all, but next level down, I was like, not many people are going to agree with that. And I was like, well, this technique, yes, it's stems from Eastern philosophy. Now there's so much Western science supporting it, and Western science that's you can work in with it. And the technique itself is powerful without having to get too worried about the rest of it. I was like, how about I just teach it and make it relatable and simple?
Yeah.
And I still drink, and I still have a good time, and I still muck around, and I still, as I still swear, and but my attachment to some of these things has shifted, and my ability to recover from these things and deal with pretty full-on lifestyle has increased. So that's sort of and that's what I wanted to pass on without getting too caught up in all the.
So how often do you meditate now?
I meditate twice a day.
Twice. And is it morning, evening, or what's the...
So morning's my routine. Like, literally morning is just my set routine. So I meditate in the morning between 20 minutes to half an hour, depending how much time I've got.
Yeah.
You can drop down to 15 or 10, but I've got that set. Like, in the morning, I shower, I brush my teeth, I have breakfast. You've got time for all these things. I just add extra time for meditation. So if I've got to get up at 6, I know I'll get up at 5:30. It's just a dead set. I would fit in that 20 minutes, half an hour, regardless. And then the afternoon one is when I get creative, because the days are never the same, right?
Yeah.
You can try and have a routine in the afternoon, which is ideal. The idea of it is that you kind of fit in anywhere. You don't need to have a meditation cushion and some bloody incense or whatever it is. Just it's better sit down. Doesn't matter if it's loud outside or it's moving or there's someone next to you. You're in a bus. That's irrelevant. So the second one is more like you get creative and you fit it in however you can, as long as you can sit down and close your eyes.
Okay. So how long did it take for you to get to that point of meditating consistently every day? Because I know, like, people like myself, I started, then fall off the bandwagon and then get back on. Like, it's really hard to be consistent with your practice.
To be honest, I pretty much from the beginning, I was like, I'm doing it.
Okay.
And it wasn't cheap. So it was an investment for me as well. There was a solid value exchange. And I was like, well, I'm spending the time and money in this. I want to give it a crack and see if it works. And then I experienced the shift and I was like, I don't want to go back to the old
self.
Because there's also the technique that I did is a lot more involved technique than just a little mindfulness app or whatever. So
yeah,
also that piece to it. And I just made it a priority. Like one of the most common questions I get from people is like, how do you fit in? I'm too busy. I keep, dropping off the wagon. I'm like, it's just going to be a priority.
Yeah.
You'll fit in things if it's a priority for you.
Okay. And I know there's different types of meditation out there. There's transcendental, there's guided, there's silent meditation. So when you refer to your practice and your training, what is it that you offer and what do you do?
So the technique that I specialize in comes under the bracket of a transcendent style of meditation. So do you want me to sort of touch on the other types and how it fits in as a holistic thing, or just talk about mine?
Yeah, it'd be good to have just an overview of what the different types are. Yeah.
So I'll break it down to sort of the 3 to 4 most common that are out there, right? So one is mindfulness.
Yeah.
A lot of people think mindfulness is meditation. So mindfulness itself is a state of present moment awareness, right? Yeah. And this is something you can do anytime, anywhere. You can be mindful while you're having your cup of coffee, it's like actually drink it and taste it and smell it and look at it. You can be mindful when you're eating your food or when you're having a conversation with someone. Yeah. And the concept behind mindfulness is that this comes from a lot of the Buddhist philosophy, which is that as human beings, we are going to experience suffering. Right? The extent of which we suffer is kind of up to us, and that is dependent on the level of speculation we spend time in. So speculation of either the past, which is that, the depressive what if sort of style story, or speculation of the future, which is sort of that anxiety piece, and attachment to things, like attachment to the way things should be, or to past things, or things that you want, or certain ideals, and a lot of the time and effort we spend on that. So that's where mindfulness comes into play, where if you can be mindful and just in the right here, right now, focusing on, and just being engaged fully in whatever it is you are doing, there is no, or at least minimal suffering, right? And that's the concept around the mindfulness sort of piece. And you can literally do that sort of however you like. It's a great little tool to have to sort of strengthen the brain to move away from that consistent rumination. Now, there are then most meditation techniques as a byproduct will increase your level of awareness and ability to be more in the present moment. This is a natural byproduct, but there are also certain specific techniques. So meditation is actually a specific practice. Right? So some people say, I go for a run. That's my meditation.
Yeah.
Going for a run, it's not meditation. No, meditation is a specific mental practice. There's a lot of people there's often a bit of gray areas where everyone's like,
is it like white space meditation, just having, well, obviously thoughts come into your mind while meditating, but it's just accepting and surrendering those thoughts?
That is one type of meditation. Yeah. So one type of meditation that is quite common is the use of visualization. So you would sit there and create a mental picture, an idea, and from that you'll have a physical experience from whatever it is you are visualizing. So it might be you're visualizing, if you've heard of like a loving kindness, you're visualizing love and gratitude, and you will have a physical experience of that, right? And what that also does is obviously naturally the way our brains work is we look for familiar things, right? So if you're constantly, practicing or visualizing something, whether it is love or happiness or abundance or whatever it might be, you're more likely to pick up on that again. Just like if you're spending your whole time thinking of negative things, you're more likely to pick up on the negative things in the world. So you're sort of like shifting your, what's the word for it?
Not focus, is it?
No, that's a word I'm losing for it. But you're shifting what you are sort of used to seeing, right? So if you're more used to seeing the positive or the love, you're gonna be able to pick up more.
Like reframing.
Pardon?
Reframing.
Yeah. That's sort of what you're doing, right? It's literally our perception of what we see is different for everyone. Like you've got you and me might look at the same thing and you see the positive in it, and I see the negative in it, right? And that's just depending on your framing of how you look out at the world. Perspective, yeah. So that's what visualization can do. A lot of sports people use it before a big game, or before, they visualize how they're going to do it. So that becomes the easiest pathway to go because it's already been done before, right? Now, the other main, probably most common, is when they use concentration techniques, right? And this is basically use a single point of focus. So it might be like a flame, or your breath, or your nose, or part of the body potentially. And the idea is that by placing your concentration on one single point, you move out of the room. That's why a lot of people say, cooking or running or surfing is my meditation, because they have an experience of, they're not sort of caught up in the chatter of the mind for a moment in time. They're just in what they're doing, right? So the concentration techniques are designed to do this. And what often happens is when you are concentrating so hard, you almost, what they seem to experience, there's like little blips where you sort of drop and enter these deeper states of rest and expanded states of consciousness, which is well touched on with the non-directive style. Those sort of states of flow, and you're just in it and going, and not caught up in this sort of thought. And so concentration is probably one of the more common ones out there. And then contemplation. So this is probably similar to what you were talking about before, where you literally place some awareness on the thoughts coming in, and you'd be like, okay, so sit here or whatever, and allow the thoughts to come in, but actually place some awareness on them, so you can start increasing your awareness of how you operate. You go, oh, there I go. There's that thought that keeps coming back in. Whether you decompartmentalize it, or label it, or move away from it, or whatever you do, or might just say this isn't serving me and move on. And so these contemplation techniques are designed to increase your awareness of some of the thoughts and processes going on, but not, indulge and give them too much credence, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the guided apps that you see out there, they sort of use a blend of those three: a bit of visualization, maybe some focus, and some guided work, and then maybe some contemplation on thoughts. Then you sort of move back. Now, then the last one that I specialize in, of the most common techniques that are used out there, is the non-directive transcendent style of technique. And what I mean by non-directive is, a lot of people get confused and call them concentration types of meditation, because you're concentrating on the mantra.
Yes.
They're not designed to be, I suppose, single pointed focus like that. And what I mean by this is the way these techniques work. So there's, like, you've heard of TM, there's Vedic, they're the sort of techniques that use this, a school of practical philosophy. And the fundamental difference of these is that they use a mantra, right? And a mantra in this case is not an affirmation, like, I am power or love, or there's no meaning.
It's a random word, isn't it? Because I got one when I was 6.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the word. I'll tell you. I was told not to tell anyone. The teacher said, "Oh, you can't tell."
You can tell a teacher. Like you're
not allowed to tell anyone. No, but then my father squeezed it out of me. He's like, "So what was it? What was it?" And I was like, only 6 or something. So I told him. But yeah, it's just a random word that you have no association with. And I guess the purpose of that is just to focus on the word and not to have any connotations with the word.
Meaning behind it, and that's partly why you keep it private. So these words aren't random; they're specific sound vibrations that are chosen depending on how old you are and your stage of life.
Interesting.
So, and they're, because at a deeper level, everything's energy and sound vibration.
Okay.
So they are designed to work at this level. And so the reason why I don't tell anyone is exactly what you said. I might tell you that my word is XYZ, and you're like, oh, that sounds like blah, blah, or you might laugh at it or whatever. And so the next time I'm going to meditate, I've now got an attachment to you laughing at my word, or you saying it sounds like this. You kind of lose the whole, the whole power of it. Yeah, the purpose of it. And so it is, these techniques, what they want to do is get you in this sort of state, almost a state of flow, right? So what these ones are about here is that really simplistically, we spend most of our time either in wake, dream, or sleep states, right? There's a few deeper levels to each. And what they found, and this is where the Eastern philosophy mixes with the West, is that sometimes in between, when you're awake and sleep, as human beings, we're entering a different state of consciousness. And the ancients were talking about this field being the field of transcendent, or the field of creativity, or the field of pure consciousness, or whatever it may be. And it was different to any other state we were in. And I think it was in the 60s or 70s, they actually finally did some research on this state people were talking about. And so people would use this technique, and they'd meditate and they'd measure, and it would be a different state of consciousness compared to the other three main states we sort of operate in. And what they found is that when you're in this state, your metabolic resting dropped sometimes between 2 to 5 times deeper than sleep in terms of your oxygen consumption and your heart rate and your body temperature. And when this happens, your body, because when you go to sleep at night, right, that's your body's time to rest and repair. You accumulate stress and fatigue and whatever it is of the day in, day out. Your body accumulates. You go to bed at night, your body rests, repairs, and processes. Unfortunately, sort of, why we're at a state now where things like anxiety and insomnia and all that sort of stuff are becoming the norm, is because the input seems to be outweighing our ability to process what we're experiencing. And so what this technique is designed to do is to give your body that extra level of rest and repair and processing to help work off the excess, I suppose, debt of stress and fatigue that's in the system. It's pretty crazy. And the brain at the same time is also being stimulated in coherence. While if you were doing like a focused or listening to a guided app, there are different parts of the brain that light up. So it's really, really and the reason I say non-directive is because the idea is that you literally flow between, and be like mantra, and then you'll have thought, and then you'll move back to the mantra, and then at some time you might even fall asleep if your body's tired, and then you sort of wake up and move back to mantra, and then you might transcend for a moment, and that means it's a thoughtless state. So actually you'll be with no thought. And so that's where the idea of having no thoughts comes from, but it's not the only part of the practice. It's sort of what you want is to get that state of where you're not attached to the mantra, but you're also not attached to the thoughts. You sort of almost cruise.
That makes sense now.
Yeah.
After doing it. And I used to watch my mum, and her head would go like this.
Yeah. That's when you sort of feel like you're trying. I do it all the time. I'm like, oh, like where, sort of, that's what it is. That's exactly what was going on. Because when you transcend, you're sort of going in. So that's what it is, which is why it's sometimes quite a different, it's a bit of a...
I would judge myself for it, because I'd be like, oh, you didn't focus, or like, you're falling asleep, like you got to do it again, do it properly. But I would just go into that zone, and it's amazing feeling, because it's just a space of nothingness, and it's so relaxing.
That's exactly it, right? And so it's designed to give you that experience, and give your body will do, our bodies have amazing intelligence, right? We can heal ourselves, we can recover from things, but the extent to which we can do that efficiently depends on other pressure our bodies are under, right? And so this sort of puts ourselves in a state where the body has the best chance, I suppose. If you're spending all day and you're busy and stressed and flat out and rah and drinking at home and this and that, and then you go to bed, you sleep maybe 6 hours and half the sleep's not that great, you get up and you go again, your body's getting minimal time to sort of have its rest and repair. And what this is doing, it's creating a sort of a state and environment where your body can have that extra time to sort of do what it needs to do. And if it means it goes to sleep, it means you go to sleep, and that's okay. If it means you sit there and think a lot, it means your body's processing a lot. If you disappear into thoughtlessness, it means you're transcending, and they're all just as valid parts of the practice.
Okay.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I've got a bit of relief hearing that, so that's good.
Well, that's the problem, because it's a bit of a more involved technique, and I still hear people that even know quite a lot about meditation explain it as a concentration technique, and everyone, and there's this weird idea that you're meant to be able to control or clear your thoughts. If you're not doing it properly, and so a lot of people are like, I can't clear my thoughts, I'm not doing it, which is a barrier, and meditation is a bit of a branding problem still.
Yeah. Okay.